No, logi ir tādi, kā viņi ir, kad taisa vaļā, tad viņi visi drebēja, visi purēja, bijuši pat gadījumi.
The windows are as they are. When you open them, they creak and almost fall apart. Sometimes the snow came blowing in on the floor of the living room. We bought insulating material. In the kitchen and on the north side of the house, the windows are almost completely covered with moss. Painting them is useless. You just have to replace them.
Krāsošana nelīdz nekas, nu viņi jāmaina.
Latvia is a Baltic country. Residents, supervisors in buildings made of prefabricated slabs. Still a decade or two ago, they were called new buildings. In the meantime, they have grown old, suffering severe symptoms of old age. Blocks of flats from prefabricated slabs in East Berlin too, built according to the same assembly principles as here in Latvia and everywhere in Eastern Europe since the 60s.
Shorter construction times require shorter planning times. Even now, what the architects conceive becomes reality.
Both energy costs and climate protection played almost no role at that time.
Large-size, standardized, prefabricated concrete slabs. These are the essential building elements of the day. We need them to build more efficiently. For the development of industrial-style building, the Soviet Union puts unselfishly its rich potential of experience at our disposal.
At the beginning of the 90s, after the fall of the Berlin Wall with its political changes, new assessments were made. Cold outer walls, gaps between joints, drafty windows, high fuel consumption, high heating costs, problems which had to be solved. In addition, high heating energy consumption caused considerable CO2 emission, greenhouse gases adding significantly to global warming. Redevelopment of slab buildings in both East Berlin and East Germany was an important contribution to the protection of the environment. Insulated walls, new windows, comfortable flats by means of climate protection measures in buildings, which means using energy efficiently and economically. In addition, work for tens of thousands of people, with the result of better living conditions for the residents and a variety of experience for both building firms and authorities. German experience, which is useful in other places too. Protecting the climate is a worldwide task. After all, in residential construction, huge potential lies dormant in Latvia as everywhere on our planet, especially where there are buildings made of prefabricated slabs and people living there. Their problems are ubiquitous: moldy walls, rotten windows, old heating systems, resulting in cold rooms despite high fuel consumption and massive environment pollution. The beginning in Latvia in 2001. A residential building in Riga's Zemgale borough with 72 flats under one roof. The idea of the model project: saving energy by comprehensive renovation and at the same time improving living conditions. The prerequisite: catering for all residents, because Latvia's slab buildings had been mostly privatized after gaining independence, transferring ownership to the residents. Consequently, 72 flat owners have to be asked first. As a matter of fact, costs were taken over by the Berlin Senate and the German building industry. Much work within one package: new windows, insulated external walls, optimized ventilation, new heating, and a friendly look for both the stairwell and facade. The results for the inhabitants: 55% lower heating costs, and for the protection of the climate, 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide emission less per flat and year. Spring 2003, 1.5 years after the Zemgale pilot project. Europe's eyes are on Riga, the capital, not because of the renovated flats, but because of the Euro Song Contest. Incidentally, singing is a national sport in Latvia, and the continent's pop starlets are joining in. The Euro Song Contest has come to the 72 renovated Riga flats too. Viewing in a dry and warm room. Heating is infinitely variable like the TV set's volume. Enjoying European songs in a flat with European standards. "72 slab apartments out of a total of 300,000 in Latvia. These 72 flats have been renovated. The others are still on the waiting list. In March 2003, conclusion of a German-Latvian agreement on the renovation of further Latvian buildings, according to the pilot project. In the renovated prefabricated slab building of the German Ministry for the Environment in Berlin. German support. Financial means for favorable redevelopment credits. The residents bear the credit costs themselves. German money as help for self-help, as well as help for the common environment. Realization is to start in 2003. Germany and Latvia are reaching out to each other again, after a strained past. 800 years ago, German knights colonized the area via the Baltic Sea with cross and sword. And after the end of the Teutonic Order, the regime of the German Baltic landowners, whether under Polish, Swedish or Russian government power. It was always the Latvians that suffered. And in the cities, especially in Riga, patricians of German stock and trade guilds established themselves, with brilliant facades. Weighing even more heavily were German-Latvian relations in the 20th century. In World War I, Latvia was occupied by German imperial troops. Wilhelm II in Riga. The Schwarzhäupterhaus, visited by the Kaiser at that time, is a symbolic building. Here in 1939, the Baltic Germans, called back home by the Führer Adolf Hitler, received their resettlement papers. 2 years later, in 1941, the Führer sent his soldiers. Riga was shelled, conquered and destroyed, including the Schwarzhäupterhaus. German-Latvian past. Now the German-Latvian present at the Ministry for the Environment in May 2003. A seminar on the agreement on the energetic renovation of prefabricated slab buildings in Latvia, organized by the association Initiative Residential Industry Eastern Europe from Berlin.
The idea was to find out what part energy saving can play in the rediscounting of such projects.
Both German and Latvian experts are present, as well as decision makers in the residential building sector, spreading the idea. Also present, representatives of the German Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau.
The special demonstrative character in this initiative of energetic housing redevelopment lies not in the description of building measures and showing that all this functions well, but in the development of a specially pioneering concept of financing.
Attractive financing conditions aim to motivate the Latvian residents to tackle renovation of their prefabricated slab buildings with a comprehensive package of measures. In order to minimize heating and respective costs and to reduce the CO2 load on the environment. The subsidies by the German Ministry for the Environment will help to make credits payable. Baltic Latvia. Besides residential areas, scenery filled with songs of joy and sorrows under windy skies. Baltic Latvia. The history of the Latvians, Germans and Russians. Innumerable generations through many centuries. In the past decades, living in prefabricated slab palaces here, as in 40 million other flats throughout Eastern Europe. Waiting for renovation as in the former German Democratic Republic. It goes without saying that Riga will receive a piece from the redevelopment cake. After all, Latvian environmental protests against the Soviet regime had played an essential part in shaping an independent state. Buildings made from prefabricated slabs can be found in the whole country, though. For instance, in Jelgava, too, a city with problems. Automobile production has come to a halt. In addition, the city has lost its importance as a rail transport hub. Jelgava, the former Mitau, was heavily damaged in World War I and almost completely destroyed in World War II. Prefabricated slab buildings replaced ruins and rubble throughout the city, a giant redevelopment task. Liepāja is the next applicant, port city on the Baltic coast for 700 years. For more than 300 years, a port for overseas trade. In the last century, for the Russian and the Soviet military. About 115,000 inhabitants, the majority living in slab buildings, a candidate for redevelopment too. The same in Medze, a village in the coastal hinterland. At the end of the world, it seems, but one of the first interested parties for this project. The village a little smaller, and so are the buildings. Prefabricated slab buildings with the same pressing problems as in the big cities. Latvia has almost no natural resources. Rising oil and natural gas costs are therefore all the more alarming, still indispensable imports from Russia. As a matter of fact, 40% of Latvians live in slab buildings. Accordingly, hopes are high for renovation, which will help to reduce heating energy costs.
Only a few people attended the first residents' meetings because everybody felt, yeah, another such project and so on. Nobody was very positive. But then all this started slowly, and now I'm certain we have an acceptance of 100% in our building. And I guess we will feel the benefits. Residents from other blocks want to move over here. If you go to pay your heating costs, people say, you're from building number 81. I think the buildings will sooner or later dilapidate if nothing is done about them. Rents are going to rise. Rents are higher than ours all over the place. If we have to pay, say, 10 lats more per month, that's okay. We will pay back the credit in the course of 12 years, God willing. I hope I'll live to see the day. You never know. But I have children who will inherit the flat. Little Emil, for instance.
Aphorism. In July 2003, the Minister for the Environment informed the media about the energetic redevelopment of flats project, which meant its official start. Both conditions of participation and applications are explained. The interest manifestation procedure is in full swing. However, when things become concrete, they often become complicated too.
Principā mēs būtu par. Principā.
In principle, you know, we are in favor. There are several circumstances, though, which prompt us to be careful. The most important thing is that old-age pensioners live in this flat, and circumstances are often depressing for pensioners.
Zināt, kā pensionāriem jau ir diezgan spiedīgi apstākļi, var teikt. Neteiksim, ka pilnīgā nabadzībā, bet
we are not saying we live in utter poverty, but tendencies are that the increase in pensions won't keep pace with growing living expenses.
Visādu citu, teiksim, izdevumu pieaugumam.
Well, I was forced to give the matter considerable thought, as with my work I'm just able to cover the regular costs. In other words, how can I cope with the credit for the flat, which I have to pay back? In the end, I was convinced, though.
Since I'm kind of a businessman, I see things from this perspective. My flat is my private property, and if money is invested in immovables, their value usually grows. And this applies to paying back the credit too, I think. You know your current income, and thank God, currently I'm certain my income won't decline. And if running costs increase, you know, then we will save money through lower energy consumption, and that's why I believe we essentially won't have to pay more.
In parallel to the redevelopment project in Latvia, there is the referendum for the country's accession to the European Union. September 2003, the citizens go to the polls. A referendum with a clear result. Latvia has decided to join the Union. Some voters will travel westward to Germany even on the next day. House supervisors, members of housing cooperatives, Latvian bank representatives, they will gather information at first hand. In East Berlin alone, there are 270,000 flats built from prefabricated slabs, almost as many as in the whole of Latvia. Since 1990, 85% of these flats have been renovated. Saving energy in housing is the most stable economic energy reserve and the most efficient contribution to reducing CO2 emission. The questions in Latvia are all the more pressing.
After September the 15th, applications could be submitted. However, the financing conditions are still unknown. That's why nobody can process our applications. Once you've lost time during which you could have done something.
Pāris nedēļas ir 2-3 mēneši, tad mēs ļoti daudz varam izdarīt pāris nedēļās.
The Latvian Mortgage Bank is the coordinating point for the German mortgage loan on the one hand and for the chosen redevelopment projects on the other. In case of a stalemate, questions have to be answered there.
The situation is the following. The bank has accepted your application. Unfortunately, we can't process it before the bank management has approved both the credit interest and the other credit conditions. The information is that it will be confirmed in the near future, because we have received a proposal from Germany with which we can agree. Consequently, the bank management will approve the credit conditions soon.
For the Latvian bank, the redevelopment project is only one deal of many. One more problem: who gives money to flat owners without financial leeway? There are no administrative rules. Nonetheless, hope has been raised. Unrest grows in December, though, because no progress has been made.
Last autumn, we submitted all the required documents, and we have even received an invitation for Phase 2. We are now waiting to get the credit from the bank. In principle, you can say, the earlier we receive the money, the earlier we will be able to start renovation work.
We've been waiting impatiently, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that everything goes well. I don't know whether I will live to see it, but I have grandchildren and one great-grandchild. There is hope. What can I say? If we don't go bankrupt and if we're successful, everything will be just wonderful.
May 2004. The Latvian Minister for the Environment visits Berlin in order to talk about the delay with the German side. Building work should actually have started half a year ago. But nothing has happened. In addition, the German money will be available only for a limited period. Difficult negotiations.
I can't make you any promises, though, that the means are available.
Nobody wants the project to fail. However, the chances of realizing the project as it was planned have decreased. Autumn 2004 in Latvia. Buildings made of prefabricated slabs in Jelgava waiting for their renovation. Responsible persons from both Germany and Latvia investigate and analyze jointly with the mayor why the project in the city has stalled.
Protams, mēs arī strādājam un domājam pie tā, lai samazinātu enerģijas daudzumu, jeb enerģijas patēriņu mājās.
We try to reduce energy consumption in buildings too, even though this is difficult. We have cooperated with our colleagues for a year and aren't making progress. It's easy to replace installations, but not ways of thinking.
Viegli ir nomainīt tehniskas lietas, bet grūti ir nomainīt domāšanu.
Es ist einfach, die technischen Anlagen auszutauschen, aber nicht das Denken.
In autumn 2004 too, Brocēni, at first glance, some small town in the west of Latvia, known only by the fact that you go past this place on your way from Riga to the Baltic coast. Brocēni, at a closer look, you will discover a place with particularly courageous people, especially in the local housing management. Despite unclear state conditions, they joined together and dared to apply for a credit with the support of the Ministry for the Environment in faraway Germany. Now, 4 buildings are being renovated. One of these courageous people is Ingmar Harmsens, a manager in the town council.
Mums ir uzsākušies darbi, mums vēl nav līguma ar hipoteku.
Work has started, but we have no contract with the mortgage bank yet. In 2 weeks' time, we have to make our first payment into our account. But we have no money yet. The Ministry of Finance has to decide. Somebody has to give his okay there. We will solve the problem one way or another, with our own means or something else. We have scheduled to complete interior work by September the 30th, and we'll keep this deadline. As to when we will be able to pay, I don't know.
30. septembrī celtniekiem ir dots uzdevums iekšdarbus pabeigt, un viņi to izdarīs. Kā mēs par to samaksāsim, kad mēs samaksāsim? Piedodiet, nezinu vēl, jā.
Soon, half of the heating energy will no longer be lost through old, dilapidated windows. Soon, there will be no more mildew on the walls. In addition, the residents have done something for our common environment. Meanwhile in Riga, German representatives and Latvian officials negotiate in plain language. Difficult work in global climate politics. Precise administrative conditions are at stake, calculable for all residents, who have waited for 1 year to start with the renovation of their slab buildings. And they want this now. But in the meantime, redevelopment work has started in Riga and other Latvian cities. No victory, but partial success. The forerunners of the residents in 40 million flats made of prefabricated slabs were still waiting for renovation work all over Eastern Europe. Time for the Latvian Minister for the Environment to breathe a sigh of relief, to look back and into the future.
Tās mājas, kuras tomēr spēja izpildīt šos nosacījumus, manuprāt, ir vinnētāji.
The buildings which have been renovated are the winners. This building in Proteni, for instance, looks very beautiful, and its residents are happy and grateful for this chance. We shall continue with the program in Latvia now. How fast we shall be, I still don't know, mind you.
Par tempiem grūti spriest, bet es domāju, ka šādus projektus neapšaubāmi var uzsākt jaunajās un potenciālajās.
These projects are of course sensible for other new and potential members in the European Union. Historically speaking, socialism has left us a heritage, whether in Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania or Slovakia. The building principle was the same everywhere. That's why I think the buildings there have to be renovated too.
Tie principi jau bija vienādi, ja, un manuprāt, protams, ka šīs ēkas arī tur ir jārenovē.
The Riga building is almost complete too, when the German contract partners come to congratulate and to check the work done there. The residents have collected a multitude of experience. Outstanding too, their contribution to environment protection, if others have the courage to follow them.